Hey guys, it's Bro You Whack, and Overwatch has only had a handful of controversial skins in its history, but I would argue that there is one that embodies probably the most controversial point in not only Overwatch's history, but Blizzard's history as a whole. Today, we're going to be talking about a skin that the Overwatch team wants you to forget about because it gives you a swift reminder of the darkest point in that company's history. The skin that we're talking about is Sandstorm Cassidy. And on the surface, you might look at the skin and be like, what's so controversial about this skin? I mean, yeah, it doesn't look the greatest, but what's so bad about it? And just like Alien Zarya, you have to know a little bit of context prior to this skin releasing to understand just how much controversy this skin embodies. So let's time travel back to November 9th, 2021, where this skin officially released alongside the New Blood skin challenge within Overwatch. Now, the Sandstorm Cassidy skin and just the New Blood mini event as a whole was supposed to originally come out sometime in August, but as many people can probably guess, this was during the ongoing investigation within Blizzard where several cases of discrimination and harassment was going on within the company. And even though this doesn't really excuse Blizzard and the Overwatch division, it was later on reported that the Overwatch team really had nothing to do with what was going on when it came to the harassment and discrimination cases because Jeff Kaplan tried his best to try to shield his team away from the corporate BS. However, one of the employees at Blizzard that was a part of the investigation that was a prominent figure in this discrimination case was the employee that inspired the name, the original name of the cowboy character within Overwatch. Like, the Overwatch team legally owned the copyright of this employee's name to use for this character. That's how heavily involved this employee was with this character. So in light of this terrible situation, the Overwatch team decided to delay not only the skin release, but also the lore tie-in with this skin to try to figure out what to do. Because when you have a character that is so beloved, that is named after such an awful human being, you're gonna need some time to figure out, okay, are we gonna change the name? And without really any hesitation, the Overwatch team decided to come out and say that they were gonna delay everything related to this cowboy character alongside changing his name in a later day. Then, a couple months later, the Overwatch team would unveil the cowboy's brand new name being Gold Cassidy. I mean, I guess. And while the name change is definitely controversial, we're mainly here to focus on the skin, which would later come out a couple of days later alongside the New Blood comic, where they had a very unique tie-in as to why the cowboy even has a brand new name. You see, in the New Blood comic where it stars Cassidy, Anna, and her daughter Farah, it shows that Cassidy is, of course, wearing a Sandstorm skin, but more importantly, having a conversation with Anna and talking about the Overwatch division and how he's supposed to take on the role as the leader to find New Blood to join the Overwatch division. That's why it's called the New Blood comic line, is because he's finding new recruits, Farah being the very first one. And Cassidy is struggling accepting this new role because it goes against what Overwatch was about, but more importantly, what he was about. And that's the key here, is that he's basically having to take on a brand new identity. And then Anna says, good, take it from an old soldier, learn from the past, but leave it there. This, alongside Cassidy's new name being a metaphor for Blizzard, where, yeah, there were some terrible people that was a part of this regime, but now you can be the new leader. You can show people how this world can be ran, and you can be the change that this world needs. Just kind of like how Blizzard needs to change and accept a brand new future and leave what happened in the past. And not ignore the past, but learn from the past and put it there and try to be better in the future. And while the storytelling can at least help you understand canonically why Cassidy has a name change, the skin itself is not gonna be loved anytime soon. But to be fair, everything that this company did was hated. And it didn't help that the first skin that was to be released with this brand new character was total cheeks, because it was just a color palette swap of his classic skin with a paisley design replacing his iconic red serape. It was very boring, it was very lame, plus the event wasn't all that memorable. I mean, you got some sprays with it, but that's about it. On top of that, the name change just was so distracting. Even still to this day, so many people are arguing with the name change and if it was even necessary. And at the time, I argued, okay, you could possibly change the first name but keep the last name, because the last name is what's so iconic about the cowboy, but it's the full name that is tied in with the actual employee. But nope, they decided to change the whole entire name, and people still to this day are arguing what his name is. And it's so distracting distracting and terrible because the whole point of the name change is to try to relieve the victims of this employee from having to relive this terrible employee's actions. And I know it's kind of weird to hear me talk about more about the controversy behind the Overwatch team and Blizzard than the skin itself, but it's really the skin that embodies the darkest time in Overwatch's history, because not only was this clearly the worst time to be a Blizzard fan and Overwatch fan, but it was also the worst time just because you were so hopeful for Overwatch 2, but at the time, Blizzard wasn't talking about Overwatch 2. They weren't talking about anything about PvP, about PvE. We still didn't even know when Overwatch 2 was going to be released, which was crazy because 2 years prior, they announced Overwatch 2, and they still did not release a day even 2 years later. So now, not only are you not talking about this anticipated sequel that had so many people, at the very least, tolerant of your terrible marketing for this game, but now there's all this controversy coming about sexual harassment, discrimination, and just such awful things within the company. Yeah, people are gonna be pissed at you guys. Not to mention, around this time, there are even more controversial decisions going on, with Jeff Kaplan deciding to leave Blizzard and the Overwatch team, which was less so controversial, just more so sad, because he was basically the light at the end of the tunnel, where we always knew that, okay, as long as this game is in Jeff Kaplan's hands, we gonna be okay. But once he left, he's like, we ain't gonna be okay. But then they decided to take this opportunity to say that they were no longer gonna be creating things inspired by in real life people or made by in real life people, because they already had the Alien Zarya incident. Then they had the Cole Cassidy incident where he was named after an employee. They also decided to remove the coffee cup in the new New York map that had Jeff Kaplan's name misspelled because of the famous meme where the Starbucks on Blizzard campus misspelled Jeff's name. They decided to remove it just in case that Jeff Kaplan got some fishy business outside of Blizzard. But all of this was going on at the time of Sandstorm Cassidy getting released, and just and that's why I say Sandstorm Cassidy is probably the most controversial skin that you didn't even know was controversial, because this is the embodiment of everything that was going on. Lack of communication from the Overwatch team, lack of Overwatch 2 information, just lack of Overwatch 2 content, lack of content as a whole. The name change that was honestly more like distracting than good, even though they did a good thing by trying to separate the cowboy from the employee. I thought was just more distracting because it caused way more anger towards the wrong thing. People were getting angry at Blizzard for changing a beloved character's name rather than people getting angry at the employee that caused so much harm to people. That should have been the main thing people should have focused on. But no, they were more worried about this stupid name. And it all came full circle with the release of Sandstorm Cassidy, giving people a swift reminder of just how awful some of the people within Blizzard could have been. While people in the Overwatch division tried their best to be this light during the darkest time, it still just wasn't enough, because they still had issues that they had to deal with too. And it all was reminded with the release of Sandstorm Cassidy. Normally I like to end these videos off on a high note, but when it comes to a topic like this, it's literally impossible. So I'll just end off with Winston's famous quote, "Never accept the world as it appears to be, dare to see it for what it could be." And the Overwatch team dared to see it for what it could be by trying to separate the cowboy from its inspiration. And I'd like to believe after almost 2 years that they succeeded, but man, it's still even tough to this day. But anyway, guys, I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. More Overwatch 2 videos to come, and bye.